Good afternoon. My name is Willon Hunter, and I am here with 5 of my friends: Sandra, Jesse, Richard, Christina, and Nevlin. Today I will give you a speech on ADHD, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, and the increasing diagnosis of ADHD in children. What is ADHD? ADHD is a chronic condition that includes attention difficulty, hyperactivity, and increased impulsiveness. This epidemic has risen over the last 20 years in children. In the 1980s, it was at least 1 out of 20 that was diagnosed with ADHD. Now it's at least 1 out of 9. There are a few factors that contribute to the increase, but first we must understand what ADHD is and the types. We have 3 types. The first type is a difficulty in focusing or paying attention. In class, your child or the children may exhibit any of these symptoms: making careless mistakes, failing to pay attention, not listening, avoiding tasks, being distracted, or even being forgetful. Second, we have overactivity. Those symptoms may include fidgeting, squirming, getting up often when seated, talking too much, or interrupting. Lastly, we have a combination of both, which the child might exhibit, or the adult may exhibit, several of those symptoms. It seems as though if your child is exhibiting any of those symptoms, we immediately think ADHD and not just the child. Now, there are 5 contributing factors. As I mentioned before, if your child is exhibiting those symptoms, or if your teacher, psychiatrist, school psychologist evaluates your child, they immediately think ADHD. Well, let's discuss some of the factors. There are 5. First, we have marketing. You have a lot of lobbyists trying to push the medications. They could be politicians, physicians, psychologists, or psychiatrists. They push to place the child on a medication. Why? Because we have relaxed marketing or restrictions on those stimulants. A lot of the regulations, they're not being monitored, so that's the first and the go-to thing. Secondly, we have an influence of the U.S. style psychiatry. Because every condition, it seems as though, let's push the child to a medication. It's never a non-traditional type of treatment. Thirdly, we have the definition of ADHD. In the past, there were 3 tests that a child had to be tested for in order to be diagnosed. Majority of the time, this was done in the school system. Well, this one, the DSM, Diagnostic Statistical Manual Standards, they've lowered their thresholds, which means that the diagnoses have gone up. Next, we have the internet. A lot of people are so intrigued about the internet. The internet can be good and bad. Well, in this case, I think it is a negative. There is a plethora of stuff concerning ADHD. We look at that, we take the self-diagnosis survey, we apply that to our child, and then guess what? My child might have ADHD. Lastly, we have the advocacy group. A lot of groups want to label the child as ADHD because they think that if we medicate them, that will calm them down, it will help the teacher, and everyone's happy. Well, lastly, this is number 6. It's not 5th one, it's number 6. No child left behind. If you have a child now, you may remember that. Back in a few years ago, if your child was not doing really well in school, the government came up with a system to push or to graduate a child onto the next grade. Well, no child left behind. Test scores. Well, in some districts, if they were doing poorly or bad, you had school psychiatrists and the school counselors to evaluate your child on their behavior and their academics. Well, once they looked at that, if both of those are low, then they can't pay attention. They're not doing really well academically. Let's give them something to concentrate. Oh, let's give them some medication. Well, guess what? When they medicate them, they concentrate more. Their test scores go up, and these districts and these schools they get money. So, yeah, No Child Left Behind, that was one for me. In conclusion, I would like to leave with you all that you have to think of these facts. You have to consider them. If you have children, this is something to really take to heart. The marketing of the medications. I go to my children's doctors and you see so much information about ADHD. I, myself, and I'll give you a personal testimony before I end. I have 4 children. My middle child, they attempted, the school district, to label my child with ADHD. I knew that he was not an ADHD child. He was just different from the others. He needed more love, more attention, and more help. Now he's a straight A student. He sits in class, but he is a comedian. In conclusion, I would like to tell you that Dr. Phil, on his show, he stated that there are more children overdiagnosed with ADHD than anything. You guys, as parents, we've got to get involved. Thank you.